Hello, welcome back. And if you've never been here before, welcome. I'm Saskia Biltman from Holland. I teach Illustrator. In little steps, you can get really good, really fast in Illustrator. It's not as daunting as you think. So in this episode, I will tell you about Transform, the Transform panel. There are a lot of things you can see there, and I will show them all to you. I give you some tips where to pay attention and what happens when something goes wrong, how you can fix that. So, let's dive in. Welcome to this episode, Transform. Okay, let's get started with making some objects. I will make a circle. So I push the L on my keyboard, hold the Shift key and make a circle. Push the M to make a square, hold the Shift key to make a perfect square, like that. V for the selection tool. Alright, well, let's get the panel in place. Go to Window, Transform. Okay, there it is. And if I select the circle, it's telling me the position of the circle from the top left point of the circle. So this point is at 186 and 222 pixels from the corner of this artboard. It is 306 diameter. That's why, of course, it's the same size because it's a circle, so this size is the same as this one. If I would make it an ellipse, you see it will change. Command C to undo. In another episode I talked about rotating and scaling. So you can rotate it here and you can tell it with the 30 degrees options, but you can type anything you want. If I want 27, it will shift it, rotate it 27 degrees. What is funny, you saw it jump. I do Command C, you see jump it back. Normally, if you go from the center, and I would say 27%, you won't see anything because it will rotate around the middle point, and a circle is round, so you wouldn't see. Command C. But because the point was here in the top left, it rotated around the top left point here. So if I now push 27, you see it's shifted, and that's because the reference point that you use for your options. That's for your position and that's for rotating. Everything where there is a reference point needed, you see this little box with 9 boxes, and you can tell it which box is your reference. You can click them all 9. So if you are going to rotate, be aware if it doesn't shift the way you want or you expect it, check your reference point. That could be a saver. Okay, here you see ellipse properties. So again, the size, again, rotation, the angle, and some other options that's out of the scope of this episode. What I want to address are those 2 checkboxes. If you are scaling, if you saw one of the first, I think the second episode, I talked about when you have the selection tool, you can rotate, but you can scale your object. But if you scale your object, it is scaling, if you used corners, that's more for a rectangle. But if you have strokes or effects, it will scale them. So you can turn that on and off here. So if you have a stroke, let's say I have 3, and I say scale strokes and effects. If I now turn it up, you will see that my stroke is bigger because I told it to scale it. Command C. If I turn it off and I scale my object, my stroke isn't adjusted. It's still 3. So sometimes you would want to scale it up, because if you have a drawing and you scale it down and you don't scale the strokes, it looks really strange. I can show you by making, I think a star would be a good idea. A star. Don't make it too big. So I have a 3-stroke now because that was my last setting, so I copied that setting. But if I scale it down now and I turn it off, oh no, I leave it on, sorry. Yeah, I turn it off, I'm sorry. I turn it off, so it will be 3. It stays 3. It won't, and I make it smaller. You will see that the look of my star is different than I maybe intended. So in this case, it's not really a problem, but if you draw a flower or something and all those strokes are in proportion quite heavy, then your art would look really strange. So because if I turn it on again, and now I will scale it up, you would see it's quite different than when I started. When I started, it was 3 in this size. So you see, for the proportion, it's good to know that you can turn it on or off, those strokes and effects. So they were on. I mostly leave them on. Okay, so delete this one. I go to the square. You have about the same options as with the ellipse, just a few differences. You have the position, you have the reference point, you have the size, it's square, so it's the same. You can rotate it. Here again, the sizes, I assume you know, but I tell you to be sure that this is to contain proportions. So if I will scale up this one to 330, it will scale up this one too. And you see this one is also, so this one and this one is the same, and those two are the same as those two. If I turn it off and I scale this one up 5, it won't scale up the other side. So now it's not a square anymore, it's a rectangle, because I told it that I want to adjust them separate. So Command C, probably 5 times, and turn it on again. Now it's the same. So if you want to keep proportions, then you have to be sure that your chain here is on. If it's off, then it won't keep the proportions. Okay, and it doesn't matter which one you click, it's one of those. Okay, you have some options with the corners. You can round the corners, you probably know that already from this option. And you can tell it exactly how much and if every corner is the same. Also here, if you click this one and break it, you can make each corner its own size. But if you leave it on, it will proportionally change them. Okay, now it has a rounded corner, but you can also make it, I'm not sure how you call this. It's a corner type, but how the type is called, I'm not sure. But you can see that it's straight and then an inner circle, not an outer circle. And the third one is straight, is diagonal. I think it's called here round corner, inverted round, and well, I'm not sure how you say that, chamfer. So, okay, but you have the diagonal, the inverted round, and the round option, and you can tell it here if you want them all to be the same and keep them all the same, or if you want to change them separately. So I make them all the same again, and if I change it, so I can change one and I will change all of them with them. Here the same, if you want to scale it down, your corners, I will leave it on for now. I'll make it a little bit bigger, that you can see it better, 10. And if I scale it down now, you will see again that my corner and my strokes are adjusted. So it's the same, but smaller. So if I would zoom in, I will get the same object when if I would scale it up like this. It's the same. Also those corners, keep in mind. If I will turn off only the corners so you can see the difference. I'll make this a round number. I don't know why, but I like that. And if I scale it down now, the stroke will be affected, but the corners won't. So it should be a little bit strange. Because, as you can see, I can't scale any further because those rounded corners are in the... No, well, they can't go any more round because it's about a circle now. So I couldn't scale it down more because my corners are at its maximum rounding. So you can see that if I turn this off, my corners will stay in the same size as they were when they were big. So I can turn it on now. And now this shape won't really change because I turned it on. So it will just make my shape bigger. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to see more about this subject, let me know in the comments and I can make another episode with some more in-depth information. See you next time.